the slip dress. Or you can use, now we have black twill tape. You can take either or. You can use pins, sinking pins, or you can use, both are possible. You can see them through muslin black, and the pins, you can feel them through muslin.
Tina, I found sticky 12 tape. Is that good?
I don't know. That you can try test it. How sticky does it leave residue?
Okay. Oh yeah.
How
that's
well
there,
it
okay.
stays in place. I have no experience on that. I just use twill tape as my marking line. So you can always recycle twill tapes. Don't always have to have brand new. So you can make this one kind of nice and round. The neckline, you can make it kind of round shape, or you can make it pointy. So ideally we will add those spaghetti straps to hold it. This doesn't have any other means to stay on except the spaghetti straps. So that's up to you as your design choice, how you want to create, this one. So again, and then there's the logo line. This could be about maybe a couple of inches wide, and then below the bust, and again it can be pointy in the back. So this may not be long enough piece. Okay, so if I start, I just make this one pointy like my sample dresses. Pin it firmly well into the dress form. Again, it should not shift when is the process. So usually the spaghetti straps are about area of princess line, so you can aim the point right at the princess line and then down. How low down? We assume that this is a style you don't wear a bra underneath, so this may not be for everybody, but about an inch perhaps under the arm, about an inch, so that it's not too high, and then again rising up while going towards the princess line, and highest point is at the princess line. So and then again a little bit of down. Okay, so here would be the front, and here's the back, and then we need the lower line. So again, here at center front, this could be 2.5 inches. And then lowest part will be underneath the bust, somewhere here, 3 and approximately 3¼ inch. This is mildly pointy. Center front would be a little bit pointy line. And again, sink enough pins that it would stay where you want it to stay. And then straight line towards center back. This doesn't have to be any particular shape except squared from center back. Squared from center back. This is kind of ending at center back. And then mildly, evenly, smoothly towards highest at center front.
Tina, did you say 3½ inches below the apex down to the empire?
Yeah, this is about 3 from apex to the line here is about 3¼
It's the size of the
inches
contour
in
the
most
circle of the
sizes,
torus.
depending a little bit of the
And
size.
the contour.
Okay, and then again, look at it from a distance. Usually you see more clearly when you look at things from a distance, and any bad shape, uneven, unpin and repin until you are happy with it. Okay, so look at it from a distance. How does this bra top look? What is it like? What do you think?
It's nice.
Kind of okay. So far, so good.
That's great.
Then you need 2 pieces of fabric, actually 3, but 2 first. One would be full square when you fold from selvage to selvage. So full square, and then another one, a smaller piece, whatever this would be, that would cover. Here would be the front, and then this one could give me back as well, and I can even make it smaller. We don't want to waste too much fabric, but we need to have adequate for draping itself. So this one, I could have it actually in 2 parts. So one for front and one for back. So here's the back piece, and here's the front piece for the bra top. So we have a very short center front line. I just fold it and place it so that this bra top could be on straight crane, but it also could be on bias. So either way would be okay. Doesn't really matter. So yeah, just make sure that when you start, bust level would be kind of straight, and here would be the center front, straight crane line here at center front, And then start smoothing this out until you reach princess line here, and you can see that this excess keeps collecting, and you can keep this neckline really smooth and straight. And this is how you need a little bit more fabric so that you can fully reach the side seam. So here would be the side seam. Here's the side seam now, and then start smoothing out the fabric until you collect it to the princess line. All this excess, that would be the small dart there. So here is the princess line, pin it, and again from side seam towards princess line. Pin it at the princess line, keeping this fairly smooth. You don't have to squeeze it, otherwise you get too small if you squeeze it too much. And so here's the dart now, and I could slash or just trim the excess fabric in order to have closer fitting here. Okay, so now I have somewhat the bra top here, and I could pin it more closely. This is important that you don't leave too much ease on the neckline. And mark it with pencil. Starting from here, starting from here. So, and mark the princess line where we assume that there will be strap position, and then nice round shape. And here's the side seam. Clearly mark the crossings of the lines because those become kind of important points. So here is now the bra top, and this one is the dart. Here's the dart, and here's the lower line of the, and bust point for indication where the dart will be drawn to. So here would be the bra top, and then the lower part. Lower part will be on bias, and because it's large piece, it's fairly big piece. So also another important principle to always keep in mind, you have to drape the whole piece, left and right side, when you have bias. Unless you have a seam here. Like the back, you don't need to drape the two sides unless you don't have a seam. So we assume that there will be somewhat of a zipper or a seam. Sometimes you get a better marker when you have the seam, even if you don't include the zipper. So yeah, so any closer we need somewhere, possibly, but if not, you may still want to have a seam there. Again, seams are a little bit problematic because of the constant shifting and pulling what happens in the bias. So again, this one would be for the back. Now front, I may want to add that same taping on left side as well, so I have a line to follow. Hopefully it's gonna be not different, same level and ends here. So even if I don't have the back, I could still mark the back as full. So yeah, so if I measure how far is it from waist? This one is 3 3/4 from waist. 3 3/4, a little bit higher.
Why do you need to drag both sides?
It's because it's biased, so you can never get it. It's just the way bias tends to shift and move. 3 3/4. 3 and yeah, so it is so problematic that yeah. So that's one of the principles. In bias cut, you have to trade both sides. Okay, so now this one is practically from selvage to selvage square. Piece of fabric from selvage to selvage, practically a square piece. And then if I put this fabric like this, I have to make sure that I'm reaching side seams adequately. So some of this tip I can cut away. So in 45-degree angle at the center, so some of it, but not all. A little bit could be cut away. Okay, something like this. And then we need to mark clearly. So I cut that tip away. And now if you just press it, kind of finger pressing it, you could have a slight print on the bias line here. So you just press it like this and then mark it also with a pencil. So once you have imprint, you can reinforce it with pencil line. Now, super important that when you have bias, it's true bias, not just about so. So this is why you have to prepare it very carefully and then make sure it is truly 45-degree angle and not just about so. If not, it has even intensified feeling of twisting and turning. It will never be stable. So here is now the bias line, which will be center front. So that imprint helps to draw it more straightly. So start it placing this center, but now you have to make sure you truly reach the side seams when you place. So make sure you reach the side seams here. This needs to be, and here pin, fully pin center front as to the center front of this bias line to center front. It tends to shift, so you have to pay attention constantly that it stays in the true center. Okay, so something like this. Here's the starting point, and now you can kind of estimate how long this dress have potential to be if I use the whole length of the width of the fabric. So somewhere here will be probably, it won't be, yeah, somewhere here at the bottom of the cage might be maximum length. Okay, so if I want it longer, I have to add triangles here. This is where you add from straight crane line to straight crane line. That's when you get it really invisible that way. Okay, now I can start creating shape here, and that means I have to slash to my style lines. How much? I'm a little bit careful first until I know how much this needs to be flared. How much flared? Again, it's a style feature you might consider. Yeah, so again, this line could be fairly tight. So keep this line sort of tight. And on the other side as well, keep it tight. Smoothen it over side seam. So this one will be fairly snug, tight line. I mean, not tight in a way that it's uncomfortable, but that there is no excess ease anywhere. And it depends how deeply you dare slashing. Be careful in the beginning because you don't necessarily know how much you need to cover the side seam. Okay, and then you start trimming in at the side seam. So a little bit of inwards trimming in at the side seam, and you may have to slash to release any tightness. And then you can flare a little bit. How much? Again, it depends. And that means you may have to release some of the pins to smoothen the fabric down first from center towards side seam and then from down, and you get nice flare shape. So this is why be a little bit careful when you slash, because when you flare, that may take fabric from up and you shift it down some amount to create a little bit of flare right there, and then pinning it again. And try to do the same on the other side. Now the center line is also important, so we can balance the two sides. They tend to be somewhat different. So here comes a little bit of flare. How much? Don't try to make it awful lot, because again, without waist seam, our waist cannot be too tight. And again here, the smooth fabric first downwards, down, first towards side seam and then down, and then shift it towards center. So it will probably take a little bit of practice. Down, and you end up having a little bit of flare there. How much? Don't exaggerate it. We still want to create a little bit of curvature on waist so that it does have that closer fitting upper part look. So as if it's a little tighter on the upper part and then flared out. And hopefully the flare is equal amounts. That is, again, when you drape both sides, a little harder to not always easiest thing to control this. So this is something a little bit time consuming to get it just right, but if you really do it carefully, I believe you can have. And you often notice that the two sides, no matter what you do, are not exactly alike. So here would be the side seam, I'm rubbing it. Here's the waistline, mark the waistline, here's the side seam. And then how much flare, equal amount for both sides. Make sure you can kind of test it, that's about the same amount. This side may have a little bit more than, I haven't bent it yet. Okay, and then I'll just cut the excess fabric away, hemline, using the maximum length here, that's about the cage, maybe an inch below the cage. I just cut the excess fabric. So then when excess fabric is cut off, it's a little bit easier to refine the flare and the waistline and the side seam, because this adds too much weight. here's the excess fabric away, and same way from the side, but leave a little bit excess. You might want to add slightly more flare to the side seam, so don't cut it completely. Kind of approximately leave excess to add more flare. Some way here. Okay, and then all the markings, final markings, and I'm going to take it to the tabletop to be trued, and then add back and pin the pieces together. So here's the side seam, here's the side seam rubbing. And now comes the important part. When you threw it, you have to fold it on the center front line, because that is going to be our firm line. So see, so you may get some shapes like this, and then fold it right on the center front bias line, and see how close the two sides came. And if one side is more, you take it